Okay, so in number one, it says the following equations of a circle are in general form. So notice both of these are in general form. You want to write the equation in standard form, and then you're going to do this by completing the square, and you must show the work in order to get points. Providing the answer without supporting work will result in 0, and then you want to indicate the center and radius. All right, so let's look at number one. So remember what standard form looks like. So here's number one. We have x squared plus 8x plus y squared minus 12y equal negative 6. All right, and what I want to do is I want to write this equation of a circle, and I know this is the equation of a circle because I have that 1x squared and that 1y squared. So that's going to be the equation of a circle. And to get the equation of a circle, I want to put it in standard form. So standard form is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. All right, so I want to transform this to make it look like this. And so notice that in this standard form you have a binomial squared involving x, and you have a binomial squared involving y. So that's where that completing the square comes in. So to do that, you're going to do this. You're going to group the terms with the variable x together, and they're already grouped. And you're going to group the terms with the variable y's together, and they're already grouped. And then all the constants will be on the other side, which we have. Okay? Then what we're going to do is we're going to take this right here and we're going to rewrite this. So you're going to say x squared plus 8x. And then remember, we want to rewrite the terms that involve x as a binomial squared. We want to rewrite the terms that involve y, the variable y, as a binomial squared. To do that, I've got to find a perfect square trinomial. So meaning I've got to determine what number can I add here, so that way when I factor this, I'll get a binomial squared. And then the same thing here, plus, and then y squared minus 12y, and the same thing. What number can I add to this binomial here, so that way when I factor that trinomial, it should then be a perfect square trinomial, so that way when I factor it, I'll get a binomial squared. So both of these are going to be perfect square trinomials. But I got to figure out what number to put here in each case. But remember, whatever you do to one side, so if I add a number here, remember you have to add it to the other side, right? So you got to keep that equation balanced. So you're going to say negative 6 plus whatever that number is here, and then plus whatever number you put here. All right? Well, it's very simple how to do that. So all you do to find out what number goes here is this. You take the coefficient of x, which is 8 in this case. You're always going to divide by 2. Once you do that, you're then going to square that value. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, and then 4 squared is 16. So that's what goes here. But if I add 16 to the left-hand side, I have to add 16 to the right-hand side. And now this should now be factored as a binomial squared. So by adding, now you see this right here is a perfect square, right? So by adding that perfect square, I should then be able to factor this. This should then be a perfect square trinomial because of the process I used. And so this should now be factorable. And when you factor it, you do get x plus 4 squared. Okay? So this right here becomes x plus 4 squared. And you can always check it, fall that out, and you get this back. Over here, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take the coefficient of y, which is negative 12. So I'm going to put that right here. Always divide by 2, and whatever that is, you're going to square it. Well, negative 12 divided by 2 is a negative 6. And when I square a negative 6, I get a positive 36. That should always be positive, by the way. So these numbers you put here should be positive. So when you add those numbers, those should be positive numbers. And then you're going to add 36 here as well. So you add 36, add 36. And now this should now be a perfect square trinomial. So then you can factor it as a binomial times itself. And you can, so be careful though. Remember, that's a negative 12y. So saying y plus 6 is not going to work, because y plus 6 does not give you a negative 12y, but y minus 6 does. All right, and then that's going to equal, and then you just add those three numbers. So negative 6 plus 16 is 10, right? 10 plus 36 is 46. So you can use your calculator. And so that's it. So your standard form then would be x plus 4 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals, and then 46. So there's your answer. There's your standard form. Then you want to find the center of the radius. So the center, and be careful with the center. So remember how we did this. Don't make the mistake and say the center is 4, negative 6, because you got to remember, you have to remember what that standard form looks like. So remember your standard form right here. So you have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And so if I take this right here and put it right underneath, so x plus 4 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals 46. Let's look at the y minus k. So you see y minus. So you got to think of what that form looks like. So it's x minus h, y minus k, where your center is hk. Not negative h, not negative k, is hk. So this one's easy because both of these have y minus, and or y subtract. And so therefore k is this positive 6. So my center of that circle so far from a y coordinate is a positive 6. Now let's think about this x minus here. So this says x minus h, this says x plus h. So what you got to think about is what this x plus h, how else you can write x plus h. So x plus h is equivalent to x minus x plus 4, excuse me. X plus 4 is equivalent to x subtract a negative 4. And so you see x minus, so that means that h is then a negative 4. So your center is negative 4, 6. And then when we equate these two expressions here, so r squared equals 46, and then take the square root of both sides to get r by itself using the square root property. Don't do the plus or minus, because remember, radius is distance, and distance is positive. So we get r is the square root of 46, which I cannot simplify. The only perfect square that goes into 46 is 1. So there's your radius. So you're going to say the center is going to be negative 4, 6, and the radius will be the square root of 46. All right, so that was number 1. Okay, let's go to number 2. Number 2, we had this for number 2. We had x squared minus 10x plus y squared plus 4y minus 3 equals 0. All right, so we have this circle because I know it's a circle because I have that 1x squared and that 1y squared. So that's a circle. And what I want to do is I want to write this circle that's in general form into standard form, right? Standard form. So I've got to do that by completing the square. So we're going to do the same approach we did here. So you're going to say x squared. That should be minus 10x, sorry. All right, so x squared minus 10x, and then I'm going to add a number, plus y squared plus 4y, and I'm going to add a number. Then I need to bring this minus 3 to the other side, so that's going to be positive 3 plus, but remember, if you add a number here, you have to add it to the right. If you add a number to the left, you have to add it to the right. Okay? All right, so now this, whatever number I put here, this trinomial should then be a perfect square trinomial, which means I can factor it as a binomial squared. Same thing here. Whatever number I put here should then be a perfect square trinomial, which means that when I factor it, it will be a binomial squared, and then equal whatever those three numbers add up to be. All right, so let's figure out what number needs to go here. So that's where we're going to complete the square. So to figure out that number, I got to take the coefficient of x, which is a negative 10. We always divide by 2. And then whatever that is, I'm going to square it. So negative 10 divided by 2 is a negative 5, and when I square a negative 5, and when you do that, that should always be positive right here. So it'll be a positive 25. So I'm going to add 25. I'm going to add 25. Okay? Now when I factor this, this is now a perfect square trinomial. Because remember, 25 is a perfect square. And if I did this correctly, this trinomial should also then be a perfect square. And it is, so when I factor this, I'm going to get x, I didn't mean to put that in parentheses, I'm going to get x minus 5 squared. All right, just be careful. Don't say x plus 5, because your middle term's negative, so there should be negative right here. And then over here, do the same thing. We're going to take the coefficient of y, which is 4, positive 4, divide by 2, whatever that is, I'm going to square. And 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then 2 squared is going to be a positive 4. So I'm going to add 4 and add 4. And then this should now be a perfect square trinomial, so I can factor it as a binomial times itself. And you see this middle sign's positive, right? So you're going to say y plus 2 squared. And just to remind you, let's see if I can, the number that goes here, right here, x minus, that minus 5, that's going to be the same as this one. Plus 2, same as, see this positive 2 over here, plus 4, that is right here, minus 6 right here. All right, so that may help you to remember that when you factor this middle sign needs to be the same. This sign needs to be the same. All right, let's go ahead and add these. So 25 plus 3 is 28. 28 plus 4 is going to be 32. I get 32. All right. So your standard form then. Now notice the work you had to show. That's the work you had to show. That was in the resource. So your standard form is x minus 5 squared plus y plus 2 squared equal 32. All right, now you got to find the center and the radius. So the center, just like we did in the previous problem, you need to be careful with determining the center. It may be a good idea to do it just like we did this. So we have, so remember the standard form is x minus 8 squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So in this case, I have x minus 5 squared plus y plus 2 squared equal 32, right? And notice, see this x minus, so that means that h is a positive 5. So your center is a positive 5. Now, notice here, this says y minus, this says y plus. So you got to rewrite y plus 2 as an equivalent expression. Well, y plus 2 is the same as saying y subtract a negative 2, right? And so therefore h is then going to be a negative 2. So this is, k is a negative 2. So there's the center of that circle. Positive 5, negative 2. The radius, you know that r squared equals 32. So to get r by itself, you're going to take the square root of 32. And then you're going to get r equals the square root of 32. Now, you can simplify the square root of 32 because 16 is a perfect square that goes into 32. So this becomes the square root of 16 times the square root of 2. 16 times 2 is 32. And the square root of 16 is 4. So you get 4 square root of 2. So there's your radius. So the radius then would be 4 square root of 2. Okay? All right. But this is the work you had to show right here. That's the work you were told to show. And this is the work you were told to show as well. Okay, so number 1, we found the center to be, let's see, it was what, negative 4, 6, and the radius was the square root of 46. And then standard form was x plus 4 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals 46. And number 2, we found the center to be 5, negative 2, and the radius to be 4 square root of 2, and then standard form. So this in general form becomes this in standard form. This in general form becomes this in standard form. It was x minus 5 squared plus y plus 2 squared equal 32. Okay? Let's see. I think I made a mistake here, 32. Oops, I'm sorry, I sure did. Okay, let me go back here. No, I'm good. 16 times, no, that's fine. I thought I made a mistake here, but I did not. All right, so this is correct. Okay, all right, so that's it. So that is, oops. So that is the key to this worksheet.